To the point, informative, entertaining, and protecting the Second Amendment. Welcome back to Elfster's Rifles Reloading. And it's deer hunting season.
Yes, it is.
You're getting ready, aren't you?
I am a few weeks away.
Yeah. So you took your initial shots here
Just
with
last
your
weekend,
6.5 Grendel, right?
Yep.
You had some pretty good success. I think it was hovering just a little over a minute of angle, right?
Yep.
You know, we're shooting some really inexpensive SST hunting round or bullets, I'd say, with a ANNEALER. I guess I don't really expect insane performance out of these bullets, but it's probably outperforming your factory match ammunition, isn't it?
Yeah, about a quarter ammo. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just doing initial load development. And if some of you guys seen some of those, especially the live event, dropping powder with CFE for his 6.5 Grendel last live reloading event, I think it turned out pretty good.
Yep.
So we got a little snafu going on with one of your magazines, but
Yeah, one of them is not. Every once in a while, it's got a misfeed.
yeah. But the other magazines seem to be working fine.
The other one's working fine.
So yeah, and we got a couple good nodes on both the CFE and Varget, didn't we?
Yeah, it seemed like not the high range of the CFE, but I think it was like
Just
30.2
yeah.
grains. I think was a little tighter group.
And then about midway through the Varget, you had another node.
Yep.
And potentially another node on the high end of the Varget.
Yeah.
And then that can happen too, you know. You can definitely see more than one node when you're doing your barrel harmonics or different powder drop rates. You know, as that barrel whips, you know, if you put that barrel under a high speed camera, as you take that shot, that barrel will kind of whip. And as it's pointing straight, it's typically where your typical node would be. And as it's coming back up and coming back down, there'd be another node. And that's all affected by numerous things, just not powder drop rates. It can be affected by pretty much everything across the spectrum, putting a different muzzle device on there, whether it's like a suppressor or can, a brake. You know, that's kind of where this whole Eric Cortina tuner brake comes from. I actually have one on my 6.5 Creedmoor RPR. You know, and you know, even different bullet seating depths, different pressures that are involved with different neck tension can affect your velocities and your barrel harmonics. So I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I think you're learning quite a bit. I think you're almost to the point where you could just reload by yourself, don't you think?
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Probably have some questions along the way.
Yeah, a couple more times, and he's gonna be doing the live events while I'm building annealers. So anyway, so we're gonna do some annealing here. And we have the EP 2.0 annealer, obviously, which we sell on our website, www.epintegrations.com. We sell this for $268, shipped to the lower, well, all 50 states now. It was lower 48, but now we're doing all 50.
All 50 now.
Yeah. We even ship international. So if you're interested, you're across the seas here, send us an email and we can quote you a ship price. Also, you can see on the bench here, we got the EP Integrations lockdown reloading blocks. We got some special ones here, actually. This one here is the anodized version. And they look, really, you can't tell the difference, can you?
No, this one's Cerakote.
Yeah, so this one that Scott's holding is Cerakote, and this one is anodized. Matter of fact, we still have some of these up. There's not many left, actually, of the anodized version. And I believe they're 139 regular. I think they're selling for 119.
Yeah, they're on sale for 119 right now.
And we're actually going to have Cerakote red, white, and blue. The top plate's red, middle plate's white, and the bottom plate's blue. Those should be done here really soon. I'm guessing within the next week or two. And the second those are
first few.
Yeah, first few.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least for me to do a video on, and then we got a nice batch of those coming. So if you're interested, be a little patriotic with your lockdown reloading blocks. Those are definitely coming. But Michael Dunn is joining us today. Thank you for joining us in the chat board here. And he's saying, I found out that my 30-06 really likes Varget and Sierra 168 flavor bullets. And that's interesting, especially in a 30-06. So, but yeah, let's get this going. And we got pushing about a little over 100
Yep.
pieces here to do live for you guys. So so enough of the babble talk. Let's get this going. I'll move you up so you're up front and personal. So typically I like to use what's called the glow method. I know a lot of you guys have already seen this, but for those that haven't, I don't use Tempelak. If you use Tempelak, there's nothing wrong with that. I use the glow method with the lights dimmed down. Everyone's got a different method of their madness and their own opinion, especially in a reloading room. This is just mine. But to get this going, personally, what I like to do is get my torch rolling here, and I got my test brass off to the side. Usually what I like to do is get this hotter blue inner corona flame, about 1 inch long. I got this all the way on max right here. And what I like to do is put on full max, lower it down so it starts to almost extinguish itself, and then bring it back up to where you want it to be. So full max, lower it down, and then bring it back up. And I usually go a little over 1 inch long, about 1 1/8 inches, push 1 1/4 inches. So on that inner hotter blue flame. So there's an outer flame and a hotter blue inner flame. So I'll try to get that hotter blue inner flame. Like I said, just about 1 inch long. And this is my test brass. So this is test brass just for 6.5 Grendel. And I have test brass for every single brass that I anneal for. So 308, 6.5 Creedmoor, 243, 223. I got some other flavors somewhere's around here. Those are my main go-tos. And that's just brass that I use to set up the annealer, not only for the position of the flame, but the amount of time that the brass is in the flame. So first and foremost, I'm going to try my best to do this with a camera in front of me. I'm going to position this flame. I usually will get this on a very low setting, so I got ample time to position this flame. And I get the very tip of this hotter blue inner flame where right where the neck meets the shoulder, and I get it so it's damn near touching the brass but not touching. So that looks pretty good. At that point, I'll speed this up. I usually start out slow out of the gate, so it gives me more time to position that flame. And we're going to turn down the lights here so we can see the glow. So I'm going to turn down the lights just so we can see the glow a little better. And I'm going to turn off my TV. And that's almost too dark. Jeez. Let me plug this in here. There, that's better. And I'm going to grab another piece of test brass here. And this is where we're going to look for the glow. We want the brass to drop out of the flame just as the neck and the start of the shoulder starts to glow. So it's starting the glow right there. I'm going to slow this down just a little bit. I'm going to get this flame just a little bit hotter. So what you can do is get that flame about 1 1/8 inches, push 1 1/4 inches, right where the neck meets the shoulder. So right about there. And the neck's just starting to glow and drops out. And matter of fact, I'm going to unplug you so you can really see this. Hopefully you can see this a little bit better. Trying our best to do this live. So I'll put another piece of test brass in here. I'll get you really close. Hopefully I don't melt my camera. So it's starting to glow and drops out. Let's grab another piece of test brass. So the neck's starting to glow, shoulder's starting to glow and drops out. And that's just about perfect. And that's reading about 29 on the digital scale. Now the digital scale, all it is a percentage of voltage coming out of the power supply into the motor. It doesn't represent any revolutions per minute or nothing else other than that. I'm going to take this scorching hot brass, and right behind this I have a glass bowl. I want to use a glass bowl because obviously I put it in plastic, it's going to melt. And this is where I'm going to take my actual reloaded brass, and we're going to double check to make sure that the glow method on the actual reloaded brass that we're about to nail is good. So I'm going to get you up close personal here again. So the neck's starting to glow, and you can see that the flame just starts to change color. And usually we'll do a combination of the neck and the shoulder starting to glow, and as the flame starts to change color, right there it drops out. So I think I'm going to speed this up to about 30, and that should be good to go. And this is where I'm going to turn the lights back on, and right there, in what, 5 pieces of test brass, we are good to go. And this is just where we give her hell. Now at this point, I got to be ultra careful not to bump the torch, or obviously the annealer. And this is where we just kind of go to town. So I'm going to turn my TV back on here. If you got any questions on annealing, let it rip, and I'll try my best to answer those questions while we anneal here. And Scott's just going to load away. And I'll go on the other side here so you can see my beautiful face. So like I said, if you got any questions on annealing or really anything, jump in the chat boards and say hello. You know, just say, hey, I'm new to annealing or reloading, and we'll try our best to help you out. Refresh my screen here, make sure we're good. Now as we do this, we're going to keep an eye on that torch head flame. We're going to make sure that that flame is staying consistent in regards to its length. I don't know why this isn't popping up. Here we go. Make sure my sound is rolling. So far, so good. And if you haven't seen the EP 2.0 annealer, obviously what makes it special is the fact that it'll anneal anything from 17 HMR, not 17 HMR, 17 Hornet with a rim, all the way up to 50 BMG. And it has no issues annealing any casings with a rim. Rim or no rim, 17 Hornet to 50 BMG, not a problem. And right now we have this at 30 on the LED readout. Now I see this all the time with people, especially with the EP annealer or any flame-based annealer that has a similar LED readout, is they always say, hey, I usually anneal my 223 all the time, no matter what's going on, at say 32 on the digital readout. Now keep in mind that the digital readout is just a percentage of voltage going to the motor. It's 30% of the total wattage or amperage of that power supply going to the motor. That's all it represents. It doesn't represent 30 revolutions per minute or whatever. That's all it represents. It just gives you a reference in regards to if you need to increase it or decrease it. And that's all it is. Now, like I said, some will be annealing 223 and they'll say, oh, I always anneal mine exactly 32 no matter what. In my opinion, and I've been doing this for a while, obviously sell the annealer, so I might have an opinion or two, but is you really shouldn't go off that. You should go off the glow method, in my opinion, or Tempelac, whichever's telling you how long it's in the flame. It's the glow of the brass that tells you whether it should come out or not. And did you happen to bump that at all? Nope. Okay. You let the glow tell you when it comes out of the flame. You don't let the LED readout tell you that it needs to come out of the flame, other than the fact that you adjusted it up or down. And the reason why that is say like one time you reload 223 and you usually reload on the digital readout at 32, and say like your flame is exactly an inch long, and say the next time you reload that flame happens to be an inch and an eighth or an inch and a quarter long. Or say like rather than the length of the flame is closer to the brass. Say like the tip of the hotter blue inner corona flame is actually touching the brass. Or the next time you reload, it's not touching the brass and it's more like, you know, 16th or quarter of an inch off the brass. Obviously, all those parameters are going to affect how much the brass is annealed. And I can see this too. Usually if you get this set up just right, that anneal will show an anneal mark, and usually that anneal mark is about a quarter of an inch down the body of the brass. And I can see that happening right now as I bring the lights back on, as I get through my test brass. I can see as it drops out of the flame, it has a nice, perfect, very consistent from cartridge to cartridge, quarter-inch anneal down on the body of the brass. Now, I said this before, and I'll say it again, especially for those guys that have seen this, but if you haven't, all brass shows anneal marks differently. If you happen to just clean that brass, it came fresh out of the stainless steel wash, and you just dried it, and there was no waiting. Literally, you did all that within 24 hours, and this brass is nice and shiny and new right out of the wash, out of the dryer. Especially if you use stainless steel wet tumbling, not so much with dry tumbling, but especially with wet stainless steel tumbling, it's not going to really show much of a nail mark at all. And I don't care what type of brass it is, if it's even the highest end Lapua, or if it's just, you know, Lake City brass. If you just cleaned it, you just dried it, and you immediately went into annealing it, it's going to barely show a nail mark at all. Now that doesn't mean that it's not annealed. We watched in the glow method that the neck and the shoulder just started to glow, and so we know it's been annealed. But this brass hasn't had a chance to oxidize yet. And because it hasn't had a chance to oxidize yet, or sit in a factory packaging, sitting on the shelf waiting for you to purchase it, you know, for months on end, that's why it doesn't typically show an anneal mark that well. On the other hand, if I was to take this very same brass that I stainless steel wet washed and dried, and I let it sit in these reloading blocks for a month, and I had to give it a chance to oxidize, it would be a whole different story. It would show a really deep, rich anneal mark, because that brass has had a chance to oxidize. It usually has a tendency to react and show a much deep, rich, that classic anneal mark look, you know. And I get that question literally all the time. And different types of brass will anneal differently, and show anneal marks differently. If you get a higher end Lapua brass, it might have a different composition of copper and tin. More times than not, your higher end brass will show a deeper, more rich anneal mark, in comparison to something like Lake City brass. And also, if you get something like really heavy duty Lake City brass, and then something like Lapua brass, they can anneal a little bit different. So keep that in the back of your mind also. But right now we're flying through this, and we're almost through these 100 pieces already. So if you got any questions, definitely jump in the chat boards. Otherwise, we're going to shut this down once we get this all done. And especially if you got an EP 2.0 annealer, you know, jump in and say, you know, I just got it, works amazing, or whatnot. I'm curious to get your feedback. Let's count off this next piece here that drops in. 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, 4 1000, 5 1000, 6 1000. So almost 6 seconds. It's pretty typical for 308 parent cartridges. We'll do this again. 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, 4 1000, 5 1000, 6 1. So once again, damn near 6 seconds. And if you feel when you're using the EP 2.0 annealer that it's taking a little bit longer than usual, say like you're down in the 20s on the digital readout, you can increase that flame. Get a little more heat coming out of that torch head. Get it a little bit closer. Like I said, just making sure that the tip of that pencil torch inner hot or blue corona flame is not touching the brass. If it is touching the brass, especially if it's enveloping the brass, in my opinion, you can get what's called hot spots. Especially on the inner blue hotter corona flame. I'm not talking about the outer flame. I'm talking about the inner blue hotter flame. In my opinion, I personally don't like to touch the brass of that. Just when I say it's just licking the brass, that's all I'm talking about. You know, and it, obviously, you know, for roughly pushing 6 seconds here, you know, we got roughly 100 pieces. That's 600 seconds. That's 10 minutes of annealing. And that really is a drop in the bucket in the grand scheme of things when it comes to the overall scope of reloading for these cartridges. And if, in my opinion, if you're not annealing, you should be annealing. It's just the benefits is you get better neck tension, more consistent headspace bumps, obviously more longevity out of the brass. I mean, I could go on and on, but those are pretty much the big three. In my opinion, the top one really is more consistent headspace bumps and more consistent neck tension than anything. Especially like things like 223, you start seeing split necks, you know, especially on its 4th or 5th firing. Annealing can definitely help that. So, it's like good old David's jumping in and saying hello from Southeast Michigan, and thanks for joining us while we anneal some 6.5 Grendel on the EP 2.0 annealer. And we are just cruising right through this. So like I said, if you're interested in the EP 2.0 annealer, what's so amazing about it and the way we designed it this way is it can adjust from 17 Hornet to 50 BMG and adjust within 30 seconds or less without having to add or remove any parts. And it's just right out of the box. It comes with a tank holder, the pan, the torch head, and it's a quality Burns-O-Matic pencil tip torch head, the power supply, and obviously the annealer. Even kicking a free can koozie. You're ready to anneal right out of the box, other than supplying your own blue propane tank. And highly suggest getting a refill kit. You can buy these off Amazon. They're 25 bucks. You can fill up those blue tanks with a 20-pound tank. 20-pound tank for refill, at least around here in Wisconsin, is $19.99, I think, under 20 bucks. If you're not doing that, I highly suggest doing it. And usually what you can do is you can freeze your tank in your freezer, get it nice and cold, take it out of the freezer, and you hook up your adapter kit, and you tip your tank upside down, and you can fill up those tanks, and it costs you pennies. And be honest with you, I think even these longer blue tanks are going for $5 or less, and you can get thousands and thousands of anneals out of just one of these tanks. If I had to guesstimate, you're well over, probably 2,000 anneals out of one tank. And just like that, we are done. And it really doesn't take that long. And in my opinion, why you really don't even need a hopper, especially if you're a precision reloader. You're only reloading 50 to 100 pieces at a time. By the time you fill up that hopper, screw around with wheels or what other parts you got to add or remove, going from cartridge to cartridge. I'm already 20 pieces into it. So just, it's all about the KISS method when it comes to the EP 2.0 annealer. And like all flame-based annealers are going to have hot products on here. Obviously the tip of the torch head is going to be hot, especially this, what we call the brass stopper, is going to be smoking hot. Got to make sure this completely cools down. You do not touch this. Make sure everything's cooled down. Obviously your brass, it just got annealed. And before you shut down your reloading room. And always when you're done with the annealer, make sure you unplug the power supply. So I think that's pretty much it. And I think we're gonna wrap this up. So other than that, check out our website, www.epintegrations.com. And I will see you guys in the next live video.